The Friday the 13th franchise is one of the greatest and most popular franchises in all of horror, with being known for extreme violence, horny teens, and its iconic hockey mask wearing killer, Jason Voorhees. This franchise was so popular that it spawned 12 movies, loads of merchandise, and even a couple video game adaptations. Today I'll be taking an extensive look at the most recent video game based on the Friday franchise, simply called Friday the 13th The Game. Released in 2017 by IllFonic and Gun Media, Friday the 13th The Game was a pretty large success initially, with it being one of the first multiplayer horror games based on a pre-existing horror franchise, with its fun and engaging gameplay and the option to play as Jason himself being large drawing points for the gaming and horror audiences alike. But in recent years it has taken a dive in players and popularity due to multiple factors. But in the majority of this video I'll be talking about what made this game so damn good in its heyday. So without further ado, this is Friday the 13th, The Game. Before we even get into what the game actually has to offer, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the significance this game has to me as a person. I bought this game when it first came out in 2017 because I thought it was a really fun game. Well, I thought it looked like a really fun game. I had almost no knowledge of the Friday franchise other than knowing its killer wore a hockey mask. When I played the game, I had such a good time with it that I decided to watch the movies the game was adapted from. I ended up enjoying these movies so much that Friday to this day remains one of my favorite horror franchises. And by watching the Friday franchise, I was able to really get into the horror genre. And horror is now one of my favorite genres overall. All because of this one game. And that is the reason why it has such a special place in my heart. So now let's actually start talking about the game. Let's talk about the basic gameplay of Friday the 13th, The Game. The base gameplay formula of Friday the 13th, The Game follows an asymmetrical system, with 7 camp counselors fighting to escape while being relentlessly pursued by one player-controlled Jason, with both sides having plenty of ways to either escape the map or brutally murder the counselors. Both sides are very fun to play and both have simple to learn gameplay, but with plenty of paths to take to branch out your own playstyle. Now onto a deeper look of the counselor side of the game. The counselor side of the game consists of 7 counselors whose goal it is to escape the map and not get killed by Jason. There are multiple scenarios you can play as, and they all fit the 80s slasher stereotypes. A jock, a nerd, a popular girl, an athletic girl, and of course, Chad. Other counselors have been added since release include Fox and Shelly, who are both characters from the movies. Both of them appeared in Friday the 13th Part 3, even though they were both killed by Jason. But with Fox, it was since her actress, Gloria Charles, died later on before this game was made, they wanted to immortalize her in the game, so that's why they added her into the game as a character. Each of these counselors don't just change your gameplay cosmetically though, with them having different values being put into each of the game's 7 attributes. Each of these attributes attributing to how well certain counselors do certain things. I'll quickly name off and describe these attributes, the first attribute being composure. This stat affects how quickly a counselor builds up fear from certain situations. Fear can be built up from events like seeing a dead body, being alone, being in the dark, being near Jason, and some others. The more fear you have, the more it affects the counselor, with the early stages of fear simply being a change in the counselor's posture, to later stages being the counselor screaming and making more noise when Jason is near, tripping while moving, and your mini-map will disappear, making it hard to navigate. Fear can be brought down by a number of factors, like being near another counselor, being near a light source or in a hiding place, or by carrying a weapon. The next attribute is strength, with it affecting actions like melee combat damage, length of stunts given to Jason via melee weapons, and reducing the stamina cost of combat actions. Another thing strength affects is the effectiveness of the counselor being able to escape Jason's grab, with the only other attribute that affects this being composure. The next 2 attributes I'll talk about are stamina and speed, with stamina affecting actions like how long counselors can jog and sprint for, as well as how many combat actions they can perform and how long they can swim for. If a counselor runs out of stamina, their speed will be drastically reduced until it recharges. This can be done by standing still, crouching, or hiding in a lit hiding spot. Speed is the attribute that determines simply how fast a counselor moves while sprinting, jogging, and swimming. It's a very simple attribute that really helps you just traverse the map and run away from Jason better. The next attribute is the stealth attribute. This attribute simply reduces the amount of noise a counselor makes while doing movement and other actions. The next attribute is repair. which simply affects how quickly and easily a counselor can repair objectives like phone boxes, generators, and putting gas or batteries in broken vehicles. Counselors with higher repair can fix objectives quickly while also only having to do a handful of quick time events while doing so, while counselors with lower repair will fix objectives much slower and have to deal with more quick time events. The last attribute in the game is called luck. This makes weapons more durable and also gives counselors more stamina when they escape Jason's grab, as well as decreasing the amount of time needed to start a car or boat. Those are all the attributes that counselors have. Another thing counselors have to modify their gameplay experience are perks. These perks can be unlocked by spending points via game and matches on a perk roll. Perks come in different rarities from poor to legendary. These perks can affect certain gameplay stats like damage dealt with specific weapons, speeds of movement and attacks, and the amount of fear you gain in certain situations. Counselors can have up to 3 perks equipped at a time, and can sell perks they don't need for points to spend on other perk rolls. Now that we're finished talking about the specifics of each counselor, let's move on to what they need to do in the game to win and escape. The counselor's objective in this game is to escape the map and avoid being captured and killed by Jason. There are many ways to do this. The simplest of ways to escape is to simply wait until the match time runs out, which each game lasting about 20 minutes. This sounds simple but can be difficult with you having to either hide or run from Jason for a long time. The first way you can actually escape is to call the police and get to the exit to meet them safely. To do this, you need to first find the cabin that has a phone in it and repair the damaged phone box. You will need a phone box fuse for this. You can find it in drawers and the surrounding cabins. After getting a fuse, you will need to get to the box and complete the repair action by completing QTEs, or quick time events. After this, you can call the police, which takes a few seconds, but afterward a 5-minute timer will appear in the corner of the screen, meaning the cops will arrive at one of the map's 2 exits when it runs out. It is best to be close as possible to the exit when they arrive, because Jason will most likely be near them to stop any counselors from escaping. But don't worry, because if Jason gets too close, the police will open fire on him and inflict a lengthy stun upon him. All you need to do once you reach the exit with the cops is simply run out the exit and you escape. You cannot run out the exits unless the cops are there or you're in a car, which is the next best way to escape. There are usually 2 cars that spawn on the map, one with 2 seats and one with 4. It's better to take the 4-seater because it can fit more counselors, but you can take the 2-seater if necessary. In order to fix the car and get it running, you need to do 3 things. Find a fuel can, find a car battery, and find the car keys. All of these items can be found in cabins around the map, but watch out because you cannot carry a weapon while carrying a fuel can or battery, so be careful when carrying either. But once you carry them to a car, you can activate a repair action and complete more QTEs in the same fashion as fixing the phone box or gas up the car and plug in the battery. The keys can also be found in cabins in drawers. They will fit in one of your free inventory slots. There are many things you can put in these slots besides keys. Things like first aid spray, which you can use to heal damage inflicted by Jason, firecrackers, which you can throw on the ground to stun Jason, pocket knives, which you can use to instantly escape Jason grab and stun him. There are other things you can find in drawers that don't take inventory slots, however. Things like maps, which give you a layout of the map, including where you and other counselors are, and walkie-talkies, which allow you to chat and game with other counselors while being far away from them. Anyways, back to the keys. Once you have the keys, you must go to a fully repaired car to get in and start the car. After it's started, all you have to do is drive to the nearest exit and escape, which is easier said than done sometimes, with Jason being able to break the car just by standing in front of it. So don't try to ram Jason because he'll just end up smashing the hood and decommissioning the car, which can be fixed by resetting a car with keys, but this is risky if Jason's nearby, however. If this doesn't happen and you do drive through an exit, you and all other counselors in the car will escape. Another vehicle way to escape is to repair the boat, which appears sometimes on the map. You need 2 things to repair the boat. You need to fuel it with a gas can, and you need to find a boat propeller and to attach it. You can find a propeller in the cabins around the map, and it takes up 1 inventory slot once picked up. You can then attach it to the boat by completing QTEs. After the boat is repaired, you and a couple other counselors can get in and start it. You can then travel around the lake to the 1 lake exit. This is particularly risky because Jason moves very fast in water and can tip the boat just by interacting with it once. He can then instantly kill counselors in the water by drowning them. You can climb back up onto the boat if you get knocked off, however. Then all you have to do is get to the exit to on the lake to escape. The final and most fun way to kill Jason is to kill Jason. That's the final way you can escape, which requires many things to happen in order to be done. The first of which is to call Tommy Jarvis to the map. Tommy Jarvis was a rival to Jason in Friday the 13th 4-6, with him being played by Tom Matthews, who played him in Friday 6, but Tommy was also played in the movies by Corey Feldman and John Shepard, who played Tommy in Friday 4 and 5 respectively. You can summon Tommy by finding a cabin on the map with a radio tower on the outside and using the radio to call it. After using the radio, a random dead or escaped counselor will be called back into action as Tommy Jarvis, who spawns with a shotgun, map, pocket knife, and first aid spray. Tommy also has all the previously mentioned attributes at the max value of 10, making him the most effective counselor in the game. After Tommy has been summoned, the next step is to damage Jason enough to unmask him. This can be done through a use of many melee weapons like bats, machetes, pipes, and even sticks, or through the 2 ranged weapons in the game. The flare gun, which can be either used to shoot Jason directly, or shot in an area to reveal Jason and other counselors in the area. And the other ranged weapon, the shotgun, which deals massive stun and damage to Jason. After Jason has been unmasked, any counselor can pick up his mask and use it to enter Jason's cabin, which spawns in a random location on each map. If you enter without the mask in your inventory, Jason will be notified of your presence, so it's better to have the mask. Next, a female counselor must put on Pamela's sweater, which can be found in the cabin. Next, Tommy must obtain a machete or axe. After this, you must find Jason and get the female counselor to activate the sweater, which will stun Jason if he's in a certain range. Finally, Tommy must attack Jason, causing a cutscene to happen and the game to end with Jason's death.
I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you!
That's pretty much all the counselor side of the game and all the ways they can escape. Now let's talk about the other side of the game, playing as Jason himself. Jason is the main antagonist of the game, and his one objective is to kill as many counselors as possible. There are many ways he can do this, and many ways he can aid himself in hunting them. Jason has 4 abilities which he can use to help him find the survivors and better traverse the map, the first of which is called Morph. This ability allows Jason to teleport to any point of a map in an instant. This is good for repositioning during the early game to find counselors, and useful late game to quickly get to the map exits. The second ability he has is called Sense, which reveals counselors in a certain radius to him. To be revealed, the counselors must be affected with any level of fear, with them being brighter the more afraid they are. The third ability is called Stalk, which makes Jason completely silent and makes all sounds louder to Jason for a limited duration. This is used for both sneaking up on counselors and finding counselors by tracking them via the noise they create. The last ability is called Shift. This ability allows Jason to turn invisible and rush forward in any direction before reappearing after a few seconds of rushing. This ability has a TV static like tell when it is activated and when it ends, which can strike fear into any counselor near Jason. This has given me more anxiety than I like to admit. Another ability Jason doesn't get access to until halfway through the game is called Rage. This makes Jason's attacks deal more damage and makes it so that he can now break down doors and walls instantly just by walking through them. And speaking of damage, let's talk about the ways he can kill and attack the counselors next. The most basic way Jason can kill counselors is simply by hitting them with his weapon until death. Each Jason comes with a different weapon and stats. The Jasons in this game currently are from parts 2 to 9, as well as the Jason variant designed by the legendary Tom Savini that was given only to Kickstarter supporters, and the skin for part 3 Jason that pays homage to the look of Jason from the classic Friday the 13th game on the NES, with it having a blue and purple color scheme and retro music that plays for the counselors when he's near. Each Jason has its own unique weapon, with them using anything from a classic machete and axe to more unique weapons like fence posts and garden shears to finally the hellish trident Savini Jason wields. Each Jason also has unique stats, with some being able to run, some having more traps to start with, or some just being more durable. The most easy and boring way, in my opinion, to kill a counselor is simply beat them to death with your weapon. But another way to kill them is to take advantage of the many different amazing kill animations Jason can access by grabbing survivors. Jason can have up to 4 unique kill animations equipped, and they are all great and range from simple choking to punching the head off of the counselor's shoulders. All of these animations were acted out in real life by Jason actor Kane Hodder, who played Jason in Friday's 7 to 10, before being put into the game via motion capture technology. Other ways to kill counselors are to use the many environmental kill options around the map, like shoving their head into the fireplace or smashing up a bird bath. All of these kills are gruesomely awesome, and I love all of them. Another thing I love about playing as Jason is the amount of control you have over the map itself. With you being able to break into any cabin you want, simply by breaking down the door, stop cars just by standing in front of them, and damage power boxes to build counselors' fear faster by leaving them in the dark. This is another aspect of why playing Jason is just so much fun, and him being able to affect the map like this very much creates a frightening force of nature that impedes your progress. With him being able to effectively stop almost every way of escape, he can easily crash the car, he can flip a boat, and drown counselors very easily due to how fast he is in water. He can break power boxes so counselors can't call Tommy Jarvis or the police. He can basically stop any attempts to escape fairly easily if the person playing him is skilled enough. A skilled Jason player is so much fun to play against, and both sides are balanced enough that they're both very fun to play and makes each match unique. The next thing we're going to talk about are the maps of the game. The maps in Friday the 13th, the game, are all great looking and are different enough to make each match unique, with there being 8 maps in total. The 3 original maps are the classic Camp Crystal Lake from the original movie, the second being the Packanack Lodge from Part 2, and Higgins Haven from Part 3. The maps that were later added to the game are the Jarvis House and surrounding area from Part 4, and the Pinehurst facility from Part 5, as well as smaller versions of the original 3 maps to some more smaller custom games and make games go quicker. All of these maps are recreated perfectly to their movie counterparts and are filled with little references to the movies. Each map has a unique central building and a unique layout of smaller sub-areas. These areas include cabins filled with loot and objective parts, which there being some special cabins, like the phone box cabin used for calling the police and the radio tower cabin that you can call Tommy from. There are also objectives like cars and boats spread through the areas, as well as adjacent shacks somewhere on the outskirts of the map. Each map has very unique features, like Packanack's great central building and the surrounding central area, and Pinehurst's many islands separated by bridges, which helps it contribute it being the largest map in the game. My favorite map in the game is Packanack because I really enjoy the layout and central area that makes it very fun to play. Now let's talk about the music of the game. The music in Friday the 13th, the game, was composed by Harry Manfredini, who composed the scores for the 1st to 7th Friday films, as well as Jason X. His score in this game really makes you feel like you're in a classic Friday movie, with tracks like Welcome to Your Nightmare really help start the game off on a scary note, as this track plays over the first kill and the beginning of every match. Almost every track from this point on is an ambient track that just helps set the mood of the game depending on which situation you're in, with You Can Run But You Can't Hide playing pretty much off the bat when you spawn in, and it really helps you pull you into the game. Another track that you can put fear in the hearts of players is called Massacre on the Lake, and this track plays whenever Jason's nearby, with it getting more intense the closer he is to you. And of course, there's a great thing that plays over the main menu, and our menu is simply called Camp Blood. All of these tracks really help enhance the atmosphere of the game, and having original composer from the movies compose the game really cements it as a Friday game. Now on to the first extra game mode in the game, the single player Jason scenario. The Jason scenarios are a single player game mode added pretty late after the game's release. In these scenarios, you play as Jason and can act out killing counselors just like if you were in a classic Friday movie, with the counselors having unique dialogue and actions depending on the situation you were in, playing out much like a movie, with you having to go through each situation a certain way to kill the counselors in specific ways and make sure no one escapes in order to gain points to reach the next situation. Each situation plays out just like a scene from a movie, and it's so fun to be able to play through one perfectly, with there being unique kills you can't find anywhere else in the game, as well as more neat voice acting and other things. It's all around a very fun game to play if you want to play something solo in the game. Now on to my second and my personal favorite alternative game mode, the Virtual Cabin. The Virtual Cabin is honestly one of my favorite parts of the entire game. With this game mode, you are put in a first-person perspective as you walk through a cabin and explore it. You must do puzzles and find items to open new parts of the cabin and eventually leave it to explore the area surrounding it. By exploring the cabin and interacting with things, you can learn facts about the production of both the game and the Friday movies, which is so cool. It's so cool that you get to learn more about the Friday franchise while playing a game and solving puzzles. Once you complete enough puzzles, though, the horror aspect of the game comes into play again, with one of the Jasons in the display room of Jasons you find downstairs breaking free and beginning to stalk around the cabin. You must complete puzzles using codes and the computer in the main room of the cabin to open the door and get outside. When outside, you must find a way off the island you're stuck on, with there being many fun puzzles in this area, like having to travel through a stretch of woods in a certain path, or else you'll be killed by Jason. And in the end, when you finally do get away, you're greeted by the classic Swamp Boy Jason from the first movie, who jump scares you. You then go back to the cabin, and you must solve a puzzle to open a door, which transports you to a strange sci-fi looking place, where you're greeted and killed by the Uber Jason from Jason X. And that's where the cabin ends. It is such a fun experience to play through this whole cabin, and it is easily one of my favorite parts of the game. Now, onto what kind of DLC content was released for the game. There was honestly not a lot of DLC for this game, with only a couple of skin packs and other DLC. The first couple of DLC packs were simply cosmetic skins for the campers, like a spring break pack that gave all the campers swimsuit and beach-themed outfits. There was also a Halloween pack which gave the counselors cool Halloween costumes to wear. At the same time, there was an emo pack release so you could give your counselors cool dance moves so they could party when they weren't being hunted by Jason. The last DLC packs that were added were small kill packs for certain Jasons. This gave them new weapon-exclusive kills so they can kill their victims in even more new and exciting ways. That's pretty much the extent of DLC content for this game. There was also a small skin pack that gave all Jasons a blood-stained appearance that was only available for those who bought the box version of the game at retail stores. But other than that, that's about it. So I'm going to talk about the sad current state of this great game. The current state of Friday the 13th the game is a rather sad one, with the game being affected by a lawsuit related to the Friday franchise on behalf of Victor Miller, the screenwriter of the original movie. This lawsuit put all Friday-related projects on standstill, so no new movies or anything. This also affected the game, canceling all content updates and putting them on hold. So the recently mentioned Uber Jason from Jason X coming into the game was cancelled, as well as a map that was found in the game's files that was also related to that movie. The game was only allowed to have updates in the form of bug fixes. So in the next couple of years, the community and the popularity of the game slowly died until the last update was released in May of 2021. So the game is officially no longer being supported by the devs, who have since moved on to other things. Even though this game has stopped receiving updates, there is still a community that still plays the game, and I have played it recently with some friends, and it is still very much fun and alive. So if you want to play a fun multiplayer horror game, I'm pretty sure this game is only like $20 right now, so I'm gonna tell you, if you want a fun experience that's cheap, this game is really fun and it's worth $20. Now I'm gonna have to move on to my closing words for my review of this great game. Overall, Friday the 13th the game is an absolutely amazing game that really deserves more attention, even though it's technically dead now. Both sides of the game are insanely fun to play, the maps are very nice visually and mechanically, the music is perfect for this game, and the DLC and extra modes gives you plenty of other reasons to play this game besides the multiplayer. This game was so good, it's a shame it ended the way it did, but I do have hope for other multiplayer horror games that have come out. Even though I was a little bit disappointed with the recent Evil Dead game that recently came out, I'm still very much excited for games like the new asymmetrical Ghostbusters game that's coming out this October, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that is being made by Gun Media, the same studio that made the Friday game. And judging by the gameplay, it might be just as good. And how am I not going to mention the just announced Killer Clowns from Outer Space game? So many great options that are coming out soon, but I will never forget the first multiplayer horror game I ever played. The horrifically beautiful Friday the 13th, the game. This has been my review of Friday the 13th, the game. If you liked the review, please like and subscribe, and if you didn't like it, you can dislike it if you want. I'm not your boss. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day, and goodbye.